all eyes on a Florida courtroom today at 1 p.m. The same judge who said yes to the raid will likely say no to releasing the affidavit. We'll find out more as the day goes on. For more, let's welcome in former Trump campaign chairman and author of the new book, Political Prisoner, Persecuted, Prosecuted, but Not Silenced, Paul Manafort. Good morning. Great to have you on.
Thank you, Rob. Good to be with you today.
Paul, it's been quite a ride for you, quite a journey. Yeah. I want to talk about the book, but first I want to talk about this affidavit hearing today down in Miami, Florida. How do you think this plays out?
It's just another act in their play. The reality is the president needed to demand the affidavit because the affidavit is what they were falsifying in the FISA attempts against Carter Page and the Trump campaign. So it's the affidavit that has all the information, not the warrant, and identifies what they're looking for.
Do you think it's I'm sorry to interrupt you. You know the president personally. Do you think it's unusual for the target of an investigation to be asking, in Donald Trump's case, it's Donald Trump, he wants this affidavit to be released?
Not after the way Donald Trump has been treated by the Justice Department and the FBI over the course of the last 6 years. Look, the affidavit is going to have the reason for the search, which we know is a fishing expedition because they're paranoid that Trump is going to possibly run again for president, which is what creates the constitutional crisis. Never in the history of this country has the government judicial system gone after a former presidential candidate. And I remind people that in 2016, when Hillary Clinton was under investigation for having classified documents on her server that was hacked by foreign enemies who got the documents, the campaign rallies at Trump's events talked about lock her up, lock her up.
Right.
Yet when he became president, he didn't do that. He didn't go after her because he understood that it's tin horn democracies that are banana republics that go after their political opponents. Not only was Trump Biden's political opponent, he could be again. And Biden knows that. Yet he allowed his Justice Department, and certainly the White House knew about this, he allowed his Justice Department to take this unprecedented step for a fishing expedition with no basis for it at all.
You've been advising political candidates since the 1970s. Manafort, Black & Stone, very successful, trailblazing company. Would you advise Donald Trump? You were with him in 15 and 16. Would you advise him to run in 2024 if you were still with him?
Well, I think the case has been made for him to run, and not just by the raid at his house. That was sort of the cap on the bottle. But the reality is, if you look at the successes of the Trump administration, you know, they are the exact areas where the Biden administration has failed miserably. Managing the economy, improving the wages for all economic stratas, a secure border, energy independence. And so Trump ran in 2015 not for political power or aggrandizement. He ran because he thought the swamp was not keeping their promises to the American people. He promised to make a difference, which he did. I think today the American people understand who is president matters.
Right.
The need for somebody like Donald Trump in the Oval Office is greater now in some respects than it was in 2016. And I think he will respond to the call again because he views himself as a messenger for the people, not necessarily what Biden is, which is a dictator to people's interests.
Paul, what's your relationship like with Donald Trump right now?
Well, I don't go into that. He pardoned me. The last couple of days, he tweeted a very positive statement about my book where he talks about this is an important book for the American people to read. So he's been very supportive of me, and I appreciate that.
Tell us about the book. I think what's fascinating is the first part of the book, you talk about your story in politics. We're talking about 50 years here. Why'd you decide to write the book now?
Because the truth never came out during the 2016 to 20 cycle. I was a target to get Donald Trump, and in the course of that, they put a gag order on me. They threw me into solitary confinement. They kept me away from my lawyers. But I knew they weren't for doing that to me. They were doing that because they wanted me to give them Donald Trump. And so in the book, I talk about the broader themes of the dangers of the deep state, the risks that they present not just to people like myself and the president, but to everyday ordinary Americans. And the book was written, finished at the end of the Biden first year. So I get a lot of the Biden first year issues into the book, and they are a continuation of what happened under the Obama administration with the two-tier system of justice and the abuse of and weaponization of the legal and law enforcement system. I use my story as the way for the reader to follow it, but my message to the reader is they're coming after you, and we've seen that now with them calling parents domestic terrorists,
and Paul,
87,000 IRS agents, etc.
They were trying to get to Donald Trump then, too, through you, through Rick Gates and others, and now they're still trying to get Donald Trump. We'll find out a lot more today. The book is Political Prisoner, Persecuted, Prosecuted, but Not Silenced. Paul Manafort, great to see you again. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Rob. Good to be with you.
All right.